In 2019, India faced a critical challenge as air pollution became the fifth leading cause of death, claiming 1.6 million lives, 3 times more than the official COVID-19 death count. The economic toll was staggering, with poor air quality causing annual losses exceeding 7 lakh crore rupees, more than a third of the country's GST collections. These figures only scratch the surface and do not encompass the broader human impact and routine disruptions to daily life and work that air pollution creates. Why have we not made significant progress in addressing this situation despite of being aware of the problem and its potential solutions? The answer is both simple and complex. Air pollution is a systems problem that cuts across state and regional boundaries, spanning rural and urban areas and multiple sources of emissions. It is driven by interconnected economic factors and interests. But our responses to the systemic crisis are often fragmented, addressing symptoms and not root causes. A few smog towers, some dust suppression by spraying roads, knee-jerk construction bans, haphazard odd-even restrictions on traffic, and shutting down schools cannot address this wicked problem. Unless we address root causes across a fragmented system of governance, financing, and implementation, we have little hope of tackling a deepening air pollution crisis. To begin, we need to acknowledge that this is a human-induced problem. Then we have to realize that those who are most vulnerable, like children and older people, rural communities, and the urban poor, have contributed the least to the problem. Finally, we have to learn lessons from other countries that have successfully tackled this challenge and act on evidence-based options to address it. While constraints like population growth and increasing urbanization will persist, we have to focus on changing our production, transportation, consumption, and waste management systems to address this challenge. Cities like Mexico City, Beijing, and even London did just that to address even worse air pollution than what we are facing today. Closer home, even Delhi's poor air improved following a fuel switch from diesel to CNG in public transport in 2000s. We must examine 9 tightly coordinated interventions that have enabled successes against air pollution over decades. First, we need an integrated approach to limit emissions and reduce exposure across the value chain from production to consumption to recycling of goods and delivery of services. This means limiting emissions from coal-fired power plants, polluting industries and brick kilns, as well as limiting wood and cow dung cooking, and even garbage burning for heating for over 500 million rural and some urban residents. We need to simultaneously limit crop residue burning by implementing known solutions like shifting to less water-intensive crops, altering irrigation arrangements, timing harvesting and baling practices, and building a wider year-round market for straw. While solutions exist, livelihood imperatives, limited access to technology, and widespread economic distress of farmers push back against them. Second is to dramatically increase the availability of affordable, green, urban public transport that enables universal last-mile connectivity like in Singapore, Hong Kong, and most Chinese million cities, but at a fraction of their costs. If we can do this, it will be a win-win for climate, air quality, economic productivity, and jobs that this new industry would help create. Expanding metro ridership, improving and electrifying viable bus services can help limit the exponential growth of private two-wheelers and cars that are a key driver of urban air pollution. Third is widespread electrification of buildings, vehicles, and production processes where possible. Fuel switching to renewables can both curb pollution and meet climate goals. The transport fuel switch is complex and requires large investments in new electric charging infrastructure and enhanced rail services across the country. China made such huge investments in the late 1990s to create the most efficient land-based transport infrastructure in the world. Fourth, Adopting a regional or an airshed approach is crucial to address pollution sources and impacts across an entire region rather than in individual cities and towns. This approach was successfully deployed in Los Angeles, Mexico City, and many mega-urban regions in China. India faces a big challenge in doing this, as our systems of governance are fragmented both within urban areas and across states, with coordinated action becoming an administrative nightmare. Fifth, end-to-end construction and waste management is pivotal to reducing tons of dust and waste released in the air and water bodies. Recycling concrete, brick, and stone from existing buildings will also limit the mining of our rivers of irreplaceable sand and the expansion of illegal quarries across the country. Tackling of construction and demolition waste, of which only 1% is being recycled, could make a tangible difference to some cities. Sixth, strong legislation and enforcement of regulation is necessary through the year, not just near Diwali. This is possible if courts stay determined and the executive resists the temptation to dilute environmental regulation in the face of special interest group pressures. Mass citizen engagement and education that shapes lifestyle choices. Eighth, the amount of finance needed to implement these coordinated actions and to strengthen local government capacity to deliver them is not trivial. The precedent set by the 15th Finance Commission by investing in health and solid waste management should extend to financing of climate change and air pollution reduction interventions in the 16th Finance Commission. Ninth, deploying the best science and technology we have to establish real-time monitoring systems that can even provide advanced weekly forecasts. To this end, expanding and improving the system of air quality forecasting and research, SAFAR, the network managed by IIT Pune across airsheds of major cities in the country, can help us make rational decisions on alerts, interventions, and investments. Implementing all these measures together seems like an impossible mountain to climb. But this is exactly what Mexico City did in much worse meteorological conditions between the 1990s to 2010s, and many Chinese regions have tried to do in the 2010s. Piecemeal approaches will only lead to the annual cycle of panic and shutdowns that we see each year. With coordinated actions, we can address not only air pollution, but also our urban and climate health goals. The choices before us are relatively clear. The question is when we choose to act.